Okay, my friends, tonight we're going to talk about the Mississippi Monster, Joe Ladnier, also known as the Lad. Uh, I'm going to ask you, please, up front, if you haven't subscribed, you're watching the videos, you're liking them, please hit those subscribe buttons, really help me out. And hit those like buttons too if you like the video. So here he is. Looks pretty mean here, and this magazine is appropriately called Monster Muscle, and with 2002 APF champ, Joe Ladnier. Here he is. He's 19 years of age here, seen with obviously Larry Pacifico and Fred Hatfield. And to be competing with those two gentlemen at the age of 19 and doing very well is saying something. Um, so it's talking about that he's a legend and sometimes referred to as the Mississippi Monster, could be the greatest powerlifter ever by some metrics, and is absolutely one of a very elite group of history's greatest powerlifters without question. I'm not fond of the word legend because it's so thrown around, especially on the internet, indiscriminately that it lost its true meaning, but Joe is a legend. Now, here he is in 1983 at the seniors, 220-pound winner. And you can see the physique on the guy. He looks like he has a bodybuilder physique at 220. And but he started out, obviously, was never a 90-pound weakling, but he started out very young, as we'll talk about here. And in those days, there wasn't a lot of, there wasn't the internet like there is now. There was Powerlifting USA, Ironman magazine, pick up some tips from local lifters, but mostly it was trial and error. So one could say that young Joe was in the right place at the right time, and this is accurate, but it was the man himself that made the incredible gains just from his will. There he is at age 16, and already you could see he's got a physique. And we'll talk about how he got started in his powerlifting career in the following panels. As with many lifters, once young Joe heard the clanging of the weights and was able to train and learn from some knowledgeable lifters, he was bit by the iron bug and his strength increased immediately. With 1 month of training, 165-pound Joe won this contest was against men, senior guys that obviously had been in the game. There he is in first place at that, and that was a state meet actually in Mississippi. Um, yeah, it takes first place amongst grown men at a Mississippi state meet, and he was definitely hooked. But something else happened at the state meet. He met Dr. Squat, Fred Hatfield, who was there doing a squat seminar. He lived nearby and would come over to train with Larry Plumley and the Ironman team. And Fred recognized how talented Joe was, offered some training guidance. From 79 until 82, the lad grew in size and strength. And under the guidance, you can go back and read that whole panel. Anywho, there he is again. And we'll show his his powerlifting records. There's like 3 pages of it, and the first obvious thing is that he just did so many contests. He went in tons of contests. Um, so he won 1980, 81, and 82 USPF Teenage National wins. And back in those days, there really wasn't much else besides the USPF. There weren't the multiple feds there are now. He also ended up driving to the 82 Senior Nationals and wasn't even going to compete, but he ended up competing and did very well. I think he came in second. This is just the same picture from the 83 seniors, but so this was only a year after that incident where he got in that 82 one. Um, Joe was headed back home. Joe was summoned by the meet promoter, one of the greatest powerlifters to ever step on the platform, and that would be Larry Pacifico. And they called him the GLP for the great Larry Pacifico, 9-time world champion, and owned several businesses in Dayton. Larry saw the 18-year-old Prodigy lift, invited him to come to Dayton with him and work at his health club, which he ended up doing, of course. There's Larry, and Larry, of course, needs no introduction. And there he is again at the bottom with Joe and with Fred. And Fred was in our. Both of those guys were in the last video about they were both gymnasts. Uh, Talking about another guy who would come to see him, and it happened to be Louis Simmons, of course, another one of the great icons of the sport. Um, and Larry always said that the lad had the eye of the tiger, and he got nasty strong. So by '83 seniors, there he is, and they had changed the sport. 19-year-old Joe secured a solid win over veteran lifters Jim Cash and Fred Hatfield, and totaled the first 2,100 total at 220 ever. And that's pretty good at 19 years of age. And obviously, some serious opponents there. Um, Goes on to talk about this guy, Buddy, that he came under the tutelage of. And he was an 800-pound plus deadlifter at 198. And Joe was quite the bench presser, so they thought they could learn, the best from each other. Um, and that's when he got the invite to the Hawaii meet. There he is, squatting there, and I won't repost that whole article because it would kind of be redundant. Um, but he did very well at that meet too, and that'll be in those records that I show. Um, then Joe accepted an invitation by 181-pound bench press champ phenom Rick Wheel to move to Tampa and train at the now famous Suncoast Gym owned by Dick Armitrout. By '86, he was getting incredibly strong. He did a bench meet in Tampa, taking advice from Wheel, recorded a raw 600-pound bench press. He was squatting in the mid nines and deadlifting way up there too. Um, Talks about Kaz and that thing, so I just thought I'd show a picture of him. But obviously, another yoked dude and super strong guy. And he was like, a 600-pound bencher too. Obviously, with a lot more experience under his belt. But then he got hurt, and it really messed him up for a while. So much so that he got rid of all his pictures, everything, trophies that reminded him of the past. He healed, and he decided later on to compete without anabolic steroids in the 80 FPA. And again, did very well there. There he is. Just a bull of a dude, obviously. And he went from the 165s and just kept moving up, getting bigger, moving up, getting bigger, getting stronger, and ended up in the 275s in his last competitive days. But he was quite the family man. There's his wife, Lori, beautiful lady. She's obviously still around. There they are. And at that time, of course, he got more time to spend with the family. And he also coached other, younger folks in powerlifting and just in life, really. There they are again. Um, Unfortunately, there he is with one of his babies, obviously, when it was a baby. um, but, he was a good family man. So by 2002, his interest once again drawn to powerlifting. Uh, at first didn't really like all the supportive gear, but then he decided to try it and he kind of got into it and became a whole other thing for him. Over the next 8 years, he rose to the top of the sport again, added both an APF Senior National win and a WPC Worlds win to his resume. And there he is talking about learning new toys. That's him spotting, I guess, one of his training partners, but with obviously like the heavy duty bench shirt. So, so this just gave him a whole new avenue to live through. As equipped events grew out of favor, Ladnier went back to his roots in his early 50s. He competed multiple times in unequipped raw events where he lifted 750 in the squat, 550 raw bench, 738 in the deadlift. And Joe had been at the top of every facet of the sport of powerlifting for 37 years. So tremendous longevity, as I said, and just did tons of contests. There he is, and he did a little stint in bodybuilding. Some fairly high level meets, but didn't place all that well. He came in like eighth or 10th in a couple of decent sized contests, and before he decided to ultimately retire. Um, Talks about his dedication to the sport and how he was willing to move to other places to get better and stuff that a lot of guys wouldn't do. The second part of his greatness puts him in the rarest of company. Um, because he, competed in different federations with different judging standards and everything else. This is like obviously him at his most massive, and I have to imagine that he was even over 275 in this picture. That is just ridiculous. He's freaking huge. Um, he also he won the three USPF team nationals, the 80 FBA drug frees, the WFPF drug free worlds, and then competed as a high level national bodybuilder. Again, didn't place real well, but he definitely had the size, at least as much as his competitors. Just didn't probably get quite cut enough. He's a legend in the iron game, and it's undisputed. There he is in his bodybuilding days, and you can see, a pretty good physique. Definitely had mass. Almost looks a little Belknapish. So you can't really see the detail on these, but you can see there's 3 pages, and it starts when he's 16 years old, and it goes up until he's in his 50s as a master. So quite a career by any standards, and again in several different federations and set records, I think, in all of them. So. Um, Was he the best powerlifter ever? Maybe not, but you got to put him up there, like we said in the beginning, and in the top echelon for sure. And again, a good guy, good family guy, Christian guy. And unfortunately, he ended up with a kidney disease and suffered with that for several years before he ended up passing. And he did some crazy stuff like this where he benches 405 for 40. I'll grant you, they weren't really full 100% strokes, but still, even at a short stroke, doing 405 for 40 is pretty insane. Um, so then he talks, we'll get into his bench press routine, which also came out of Powerlifting USA. Because as you know, I like to put routines in for these guys whenever I can get them. Um, So he says, warm ups are basically the same all the way through the cycle. Each week, your last warm up set is approximately 40 pounds lighter than your heavy set. And this is just a picture of him with Southern Powerlifting Federation, which I guess he was probably a officer of in some status. And I'm sorry, I don't know what that was. So first 7 weeks are touch and go, but no bounce. And you can see it's pretty linear. And if you look at the last couple of sets on each is what continues to go up over the course of the weeks. And then he does a heavy day and a light day every week, which I did that kind of program myself, and I thought it was really good. Some guys like to bench as much as 3 days a week, but I think Joe thought, especially with the weight he was putting up, that was a little overkill. And then you see, we go into the next phase where, again, that weight keeps going up, and then he's dropping down to lower reps. As we go up in weeks, the reps get lower. Okay, which makes a lot of sense. There he is with his more in a more casual look, and looks pretty good there. Looks like he's happy and healthy there. So obviously a little bit earlier days. Um, so the next 4 weeks we go from an 8 to contest. Uh, Add one set and 3 reps. Drop 10 pounds from the heaviest set and pause these reps using a wide grip. So the biggest difference at these, pausing them at the last couple at least, and the wide grip. So that's about it for Joe. Rest in peace, brother Joe, and hope to see you someday in heaven. Thanks everybody for watching. And again, if you liked the video, please hit those thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And I will try to keep bringing the good content. That's it. Thanks. I'm out.